Hello, welcome, Cabbage here. For Nier Reincarnation, let's do what I'm sure is going to be a controversial video, but let's do a guide for getting high-scoring runs in Subjugations on Auto Battle. The reason this will be controversial is because there is a segment of the global population that will say you're doing it wrong if you play high-difficulty content on Auto, but let me assure you, JP community doesn't care, and the developers don't care how you do it. In fact, I'm sure the developers would give you their blessing to play it on Auto, if that was the difference between you playing it and not playing it. If you think about it, if they didn't want us to play on Auto, they would disable the function for that mode. I consider it like I'm playing a simulation game, you know. On Battle, it's a roll of the dice, but where the player comes in is in account building and then team building. And if our preparation is good enough, we can stack the odds in our favor so that even though we're rolling the dice, we're going to get a kind of a guaranteed result. And then there are two ranks or scores that I think are worth aiming for. Newer players could aim for SSS1. There are some rewards at that level. Longtime players are going to want to aim for plus scores. I don't know if my experience is going to be any marker by which to judge, but I am free to play. I've been playing diligently since week 1. I almost certainly have one of the best free-to-play accounts in any version, and still, I was barely able to get plus scores in all elements. Even with all the crazy handouts and banners lately, I had to blow pretty much my entire stash of gems, tickets, black pearls, and advanced handbooks to do it. I don't know where the cutoff is going to be as far as like how long you've played, but maybe try some auto runs, and if you're getting like SSS 8 or higher, probably with some tinkering and leveling, you could get to plus. Alright, so here let's talk about building teams, and I believe it's pretty simple actually. That was the impression I got from getting my full auto clears. I'll link to a playlist below. But here's this table, and as we can see, there's only one wave shown, and I don't specify whether this is wave 1, 2, or 3, or what difficulty. Of course, the bosses act differently in each wave and difficulty level, but I think power creep on the player side of things has progressed so much that we can kind of overpower the mechanics of the different boss behaviors, just like our access to weapons and costumes. They've gotten so strong that we can do that. But we can look at the attacker there in the center first. Basically, what we want out of a main attacker is somebody with a 5-hit character skill with very high multipliers, like 200% or 300% or higher on each hit. And then for their primary weapon, we want usually a proficient weapon so we can get more hits with the regular attacks. And big weapon skill multipliers there as well. And then for the secondary weapons, we can use a weapon with a cooldown haste and then the element boon. We could use 2 of those, or we could also put in a weapon with 2 damage up passives. Any combination of those 2 would be great. And then next, let's look at the 2 support characters on the side. One character skill with an attack buff for the party will be fine, and then one defense break on the boss character skill will be fine. And then for those support characters, for their primary weapons, we want, again, one attack buff for the party, one defense break for the boss, and then in the secondary hand, we want the cooldown haste just to get more skills out. If possible, you know, give them element boon as well, just to get a little bit more damage out of the party overall. And then for companions, this might sound familiar, but one attack buff, one defensive break, and then if we need it in the 3rd slot, an element damage up for the party. We may be able to get that with one of the other companions. And then for memoirs, both the support characters, we can use the Seafaring Cradle Tails in order to buff the attack of the main attacker. And then for the main attacker, any set, just use something with a critical % up as the primary buff, and then for the secondary, critical rate and critical damage up. And then for memoirs, any damage up that you have. Could be attack up, could be elemental damage up. And then the order in which we place these guys will be important. For the companions, it will fire from left to right when it is on auto battle, so pay attention to how your buffs are going. If you need that extension, you know, earlier, you can move the companion over, extend the time on that. And then as for Karma, taking characters to Karma slot 2 or 3. I want to say all of the attackers should be taken to 3 so we can give them the cooldown haste, just so they can get out more damage more quickly. As for support characters, I largely did not use it, but if you think it could help you and you have the materials, you can certainly go for it. Okay, next table, I picked up a bunch of guys that I feel like could be good in any element. On the far left, I have a few attackers, Abyssal Udil, Hina, and Saryu, and then a Festive Fio. I talked about these characters in my top 10 attackers video. I'll link to that below as well. And then, of course, every element, they have their element-specific attack buffers or defense breakers. If you have those, it'll be preferable to use them. But if you're missing 1 or 2, you can certainly choose from these guys. A lot of these guys also have element specialties, but I feel like their buff or break is good enough that we can use them in any element. But we got Christmas Akiha, I think that's Abstract Sarafa, Summer Demas, and Shadowbound Priyat. These are all available in the various exchanges that we have going on now. And then for defense breakers, we have Anniversary Marie, Abyssal F66X, Abyssal Yuzuki, and Abyssal 063Y. F66X and 063Y, they have a slower cooldown, so you might want to give them Karma to speed them up, but yeah, maybe try them in some runs, see if their speed really is too slow. And I feel like even now, an attack buff or a defense break, 30% for 30 seconds is good enough and fairly common. But if you wanted to tilt the odds even more in your favor, you can go for these guys. They have either longer buff durations or higher percentage buffs. Okay, and then I picked a few weapons that we can use in any element as secondary weapons. But of course we have the Dark Memory weapons, and then these ones I chose because they have damage up, either attack up or critical damage up. And then we have other secondary weapons where they have 2 passives that raise your damage somehow. Maybe a Bold Vigor like the 2 light weapons, or Pursuit like the Spear, or Caged Vigor like the Fist there. And they have Vigor, so there's no element boon or element haste, no element tied to them. Again, not ideal. There are better elemental options, but if you do not have them, you can certainly put in these guys. Alright, and then here I made a table of companions that would be good for subjugations. Can't remember when I made this. But yeah, we have attack buffers and defense breakers. Some of these are collaboration, so they're not going to be available between now and the end of the game. But if you had them lying around, you can certainly use them. And then most of these are available to be exchanged now in-game. So yeah, I would pick these up. Even the attack buff 15% or lower are usable, because it's more about extending the buff rather than raising it by more percentage. Better to have a longer buff than no buff at all. Alright, and then to end, I'll show you one of my kind of wave setups. This was versus water. I'm using a Festive Fio because she's good in every element. On her with the primary weapon, we are using the Dark Memory Priyat Fist. Good multipliers on those weapon skills, so these are always options to use as your primary weapon. Lately, there have been more and more kind of primary weapon candidates that are better than the Dark Memory weapons, but certainly still usable. And then everything that has a green square around it is an attack buff. So we see 2 character skills, 1 weapon skill, 1 companion. Everything with a yellow square is a defense break, so 1 weapon, 2 companions, and then everything with the blue is the stuff with the cooldown haste. And then a bunch of attack up debris, except for Akiha, she needed some protection, and then Seafaring, Cradle, Tails, Memoirs on the 2 support characters, and a mix of Memoirs on Fio in order to get her critical rate and critical damage up. Okay, I hope that demystified subjugations a little bit. They're not that intimidating, especially if you take them from this point of view. Alright, thanks for watching, and we'll see you again. Take care.